Hello, welcome on in everyone. Today I've got for you guys a spear and fire staff build for New World. This is a light armor, damage focused spear and fire staff build, and we're stacking intelligence on this bad boy to make it work. Now I know what you're thinking, why go for the spear fire staff combo? Well, there's actually some reasoning behind it. The spear itself is a really fantastic close range stun weapon, but it doesn't have the most mobility. And the fire staff is a fantastic high power medium ranged weapon with some of the best mobility in the game. So when I tried the combo out, I felt like these two would cover each other's weaknesses well, and they did not disappoint. It actually turned out to be a solid build that could put out an unexpected amount of firepower. I love that builds like this are actually viable in the game because this opens up so much build variety for pretty much any weapon combo that you want to run. Of course, if you want a written guide to this guy, you can find it on pvpnewworld.com, a link down below in the description for you guys. And without further ado, let's take a look at that build. So starting off with our attributes, this is an intelligence focused build. We are using the spear and the fire staff, but we've got the ignited gem on our spear in order to convert a portion of the damage to fire damage. So this allows us to actually get some decent damage with our spear, even though we aren't spec'd into dexterity or strength. A little bit of a disclaimer, if you're playing this build at endgame, it should be better than it is right now. That being said, the build still felt strong right now. So it makes me really excited for the future of this style of build because this opens up a huge variety of weapon combinations and makes them quite viable. Now the important points we get along the intelligence line, of course, are the 10% bonus damage to our light and heavy attacks, the 10% additional critical hit damage, the 15% additional elemental damage, 10 mana after a dodge, fantastic for sustain, and then we get 30% duration to our damage over time spells. This is nice because we've got a lot of burns on our build. And then finally, we've got the 30% damage on first hit against a full health target. Not the most important passive of the list here, but still. For this build, I also put 50 points in Constitution for the 20% additional stronger health consumables. Really nice for PvP to have that additional healing power, and of course the little bit of additional hit points just to make you a little bit bulkier. For endgame, you could put a few more points in Constitution if you want, but because this is a light armor build, we don't really get a lot from the 100 point passive here. And if you're just starting this build out, I would actually recommend going for Constitution first and then dumping everything in Intelligence afterwards, just because Constitution scales so well at the beginning of the game. Now let's take a look at the equipment I'm running on this guy. Starting off with our weapons, we've got the Ignited Ancient Spear of the Scholar, giving me intelligence on the spear, and then the ignited gem that you get from a ruby. 30% of the damage is converted to fire, which will scale off of our intelligence. This allows us to actually have some decent damage with our spear on this build, on top of all the massive AoE stuns that it provides too. Now, Beastbane is not the ideal trait for this build. That being said, this build actually has a really high crit rate, so you could definitely go for something like Keenly Jagged, or just additional critical damage, or anything like Keenly Empowered that procs off of your criticals would be very effective not only for the spear, but also the fire staff. Speaking of which, taking a look at the fire staff, I've got Constitution and Intelligence on this guy. Fantastic because we need both of these stats for the build. And then I've got the Gambit Gem on here, 6% damage while your stamina is not full. We're in light armor and we're going to be rolling a lot while we play this build. So yeah, Gambit is a pretty good slot, I think, for the fire staff on the back bar. And then Keen is the trait that we have. Really great because we have a high crit rate with the fire staff as well. This build is pretty much a critical build with a pretty decent crit rate across both our weapons here. So definitely benefit a lot, again, from going for those Keen traits on our weapon. Now, taking a look at the equipment, again, all of the gear here is Constitution or Intelligence mixed. I do have one piece that is Strength and Intelligence, and that's just because I really wanted the Keen Vault Kick, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. The gems on here are all Wilderness Ward except for one, but I think for a light armor build, Wilderness Ward is one of the best options. You do get the physical damage reduction and a little bit of elemental damage reduction. I find in light armor, I feel like I'm getting hit the hardest by physical attacks. That being said, if you want to have more elemental defense, it's not a bad idea because mages can hit very hard too. The important move-specific perks that you want for this build are going to be Keen Vault Kick as well as Empowering Fireball. Keen Vault Kick is going to give you additional 11% crit chance for 5 seconds when you hit someone with the Vault Kick. Your spear skills have insanely fast cooldowns, so if you're actively hitting your moves, you can actually keep this critical chance buff up for quite a decent amount of time while you're in combat. And then the Empowering Fireball just to increase the impact of Fireball by 19% additional damage. Fantastic for that additional burst. I would have liked the Efficient Burnout trait just to reduce the cost of Burnout as well. And the Weakening Skewer perk wouldn't be bad either because I am using Skewer, and reducing your opponent's damage is definitely useful in PvP. But that being said, I wasn't able to get all of the perks that I wanted for the gear. I just kind of focused on getting a better gear score for this build actually, and I found in PvP, at least for early game, if you can get your hands on those really important perks and then focus on the gear score slash stacking the right attributes, your build can definitely be really strong. And then for the jewelry, I have got full intelligence jewelry, and then I've got physical ward for the gem here. Again, you can go with physical ward, you could go with wilderness ward, whatever you want to reduce incoming damage. And of course, if I was higher level, I would definitely want the additional fire damage on the ring. And there is a really nice perk that reduces the cooldown of potions, so I think that would be a fantastic option too. That being said, for early game, it's really tough to get some nice jewelry perks. There's not a lot of people that are making jewelry, and usually it's very expensive. So just kind of focus on getting that attribute that you want for it and getting the right gem too. And of course, you want to run your best consumables that you can in PvP. The first one, of course, is going to be your standard healing potion, just restoring a chunk of health when you use it. And you want to have the meal of choice. I'm level 30, so I use the light meal. This is nice because you can quickly heal a lot of health over 20 seconds when you eat the food. However, the healing will stop if you get hit while you're in combat. This build has the fire staff, and we're actually pretty fast in it with light armor, so we can utilize the light meal to escape and heal up if we can get ourselves to a safe location. And then we've got the common regeneration potion. Again, use the best tier of regen potion that you can. This is going to restore health and mana. Fantastic, because we are using a fire staff, so we're going to expend a bit of mana. And then in the final slot here, I would recommend slotting a mana potion as just more mana sustain. If you end up using a lot of different fire staff attacks that aren't fire staff heavy attacks, you definitely won't regret slotting that here. Now, taking a look at the weapon masteries for this build, starting off in the spear. For the slotted skills on the spear, I've gone with Skewer, as well as the Vault Kick and Sweep. I know that some people like to run all 3 stuns on the spear. I was using the Javelin, and you could use the Javelin on this build if you want. That being said, I actually really enjoyed Skewer because the spear isn't the fastest weapon, and Skewer actually lunges you forward a little bit, just like Vault Kick does, which makes it a lot easier to land on a target that's a little bit further distance from you. Spacing, again, is super important in this game, so having a move that rushes you forward, even just a few meters, actually has a lot of use in PvP. So let's talk a little bit more about Skewer. Not only will it deal 125% weapon damage, but it applies a bleed that's 10% weapon damage for 10 seconds. And that gets buffed to 15 seconds duration on the bleed. You gain Empower on critical hits, increasing the damage by 20%. Again, we are playing a critically focused spear build, so that's fantastic. And then 20% damage against targets that have full health. Now, taking a look at Sweep, this is going to be one of your primary stuns for your spear bar. The stuns, keep in mind, you don't want to use just offensively. They're actually a really good answer to if you get stuck in something like a gravity well and your opponent jumps on top of you, you can just counter stun them and wait out the gravity well like that. Now, Sweep doesn't deal a huge amount of damage, but you do get grit while you activate the attack, which is fantastic if you're trying to exchange stuns. That being said, I did not go for the final passive of Sweep here, simply because the down stab that this gives you is a little bit on the slow side, so it kind of leaves your character a little bit exposed when you use it, and if you're playing solo PvP especially, I think it's a little bit too slow to justify using. In a one-on-one, however, I think the stab would definitely be worth using. And then taking a look at Vault Kick, we've got the Spear Vault to kick ourselves forward, dealing 75% weapon damage and stunning the target for 1.5 seconds. You gain Empower after successful hits on a target below 50% health, and on top of it, the cooldown of other spear abilities are reduced by 30% on successful hit. This is a massive deal. You definitely want to try to use Vault Kick after you've used your other 2 spear skills, simply because it will allow you to use your other skills much sooner. Now, what makes this so good is when you mix it with the Aggressive Maneuvers passive. The first successful hit of an ability within 2 seconds of dodging reduces all your spear cooldowns by 20%. So essentially what you can do is roll, attack, roll, attack, roll, attack, and kind of keep repeating that combo for quite a few cycles before you're actually going to have to wait on a cooldown with your spear. I mean, just the roll into Vault Kick landing alone will give you a 50% cooldown reduction on your other 2 skills. Yeah, Spear is absolutely amazing when it comes to spamming your skills and having very low cooldowns. Now, the next passive that I've taken in this tree is the Exposed Wounds for 15% critical chance against a target with a bleed. Again, for our critical build, amazing because we are using skewers, so that will allow us to put a bleed on them. And if you have a Keenly Jagged weapon, even better to get this passive. And then for the passives on our zoner tree here, we've got the 10% critical chance on attacks against targets that are 3 or more meters away from you. More synergy with our lunge skills. Again, on top of it, the spear heavy attack has quite a bit of distance on the lunge. That being said, it's hard to use the spear heavy attack a lot in a fight. You definitely have to pick your moments for it. And then Evasive Maneuvers, dodging backwards consumes 20% less stamina for 2 seconds after a successful hit. Amazing because we have a lot of reach with our spear light and heavy attacks as well as our skills. So this allows us to just kind of kite an opponent out, dodge back, throw our skewer back in, dodge back, go for the vault kick. Lots of nice combos we can use and really save a lot of stamina, especially since we're in an intelligence build and we're not having that cheaper roll cost from going dexterity. This is a really nice passive. And then the last one I have here is Restore 20 stamina on critical hits. Again, a really nice passive because we have so many stuns that are offensive and they have a high crit rate, and they also require us to roll a lot in order to continue using them. So yeah, getting the stamina back when they critically hit will allow us to keep rolling, allowing us to continue keeping up those nasty spear combos on opponents. And then I am not fully level 20 spear, but the last few passives I would grab is Refreshing Reach for the additional cooldown reduction on heavy attacks. This is particularly nice because the stun off of Vault Kick, you can throw a full heavy attack into your opponent to get even more cooldown reduction with that already insane Vault Kick combo. And then finally, Precise Jabs for the 5% additional critical chance on light attacks, as well as Refreshing Jabs to have a 10% cooldown reduction on the second hit of the light attack chain. And then last but not least, that Exploited Weakness passive, 10% damage per debuff on the target. Absolutely amazing because our Fire Staff will apply a lot of burns, our Spear will apply a lot of bleeds, we've got a lot of stuns as well. We won't be able to utilize the full 30% damage bonus at all times, however, we'll still get a lot of additional damage out of this. Now let's take a look at the Fire Staff skills that I'm using here. The first ability is the Fireball, and this is really nice for the Fire Staff. It hits for quite a lot of base damage, and on top of it, it leaves a burning field on the ground that will deal damage to anybody who walks inside of it, so you can actually use it to zone a little bit too. As you upgrade Fireball, you can increase the duration of the burning field, and a direct hit with Fireball will give you 10% of your max mana back and reduce your Fire Staff cooldowns by 7%. Ideally, I would have these passives here, but I don't because I still need to level up my Fire Staff. One of the nice things about Fireball too is that it's actually a very fast move and it roll cancels quite smoothly, which makes it very fluid to use in a kind of faster situation in combat. Now the next skill that I'm using is Burnout. Burnout is one of, if not the best PvP skills for Fire Staff. You deal a decent amount of damage with anything that you hit while you use the Burnout kind of teleport or gap closer, and you'll also apply a burn to anything that you hit that will deal 10% weapon damage each second for 8 seconds. You get reduced 5% Fire Staff cooldown for each foe hit when you use Burnout on top of it. And finally, you get a little bit more distance on Burnout with the last upgrade here. Definitely want to get this heated up passive. When you're leveling up your Fire Staff, I think the first skill you want to unlock is going for Fireball, and then following with Burnout and getting that heated up passive. Get your Incinerate, and then start filling out all your passives and slowly unlocking your ability passives as well. And then the last skill I got here is Incinerate. I'm honestly a little bit torn on what I really want to run for the Fire Staff in the final skill slot. I like Incinerate because it can deal a ton of damage, and thanks to all the stuns we have on the Spear, you can actually stun someone off your Spear bar, swap to the Fire Staff, and hit them super hard with an Incinerate or even a heavy attack into the Fireball. The one big downside to Incinerate is that it does plant your character when you use it. So if you're in a bad position and you do use it, you can find yourself actually getting killed quite fast. When you fully upgrade Incinerate, it also will hit twice, and it will heal you for 20% of the damage that it deals. So it's a pretty good utility skill all around for the Fire Staff, kind of like a back-off skill. That being said, you can use a different skill here if you want. I would actually recommend trying out Pillar of Fire if you want to try something else. Just having another ranged fire attack can be really nice for applying all of the powerful range pressure that the Fire Staff has. Now, taking a look at the passives that I'm running on the Fire Staff, Fiery Restoration is the first one here. 10% Fire Staff cooldowns when you land a heavy attack. Absolutely amazing because our heavy attacks are free thanks to that Flare passive. This is a really nice one for the Fire Staff for your sustain overall. Now, when you're leveling up the Fire Staff, I would actually recommend going for Spell Focus first, simply because if you don't have access to Flare, you won't be able to do a lot of attacking before you run out of mana. So Spell Focus will allow you to do that early game, and then once you get access to Flare, switch over to Fiery Restoration. Now, the next one we have is Clear Mind. While above 50% mana, you gain 10% in power. This is another reason why the mana potions are important, because as long as we stay above a certain mana point, we can actually hit harder too. You should have no sustain issues on this build because it is Fire Staff Spear, not two magical weapons, so the potions we use should be more than enough to keep you in this kind of range. And then, of course, we've got Spell Slinger for that 15% additional critical chance strike. Really nice for this build. It's a critical focus build, so yeah, putting more crit in, definitely going to benefit. And then Flare, the heavy attacks no longer consume mana. We talked about that, very important for our sustain. The heavy attacks on the Fire Staff also hit very, very hard. And then over on the Pyromancer tree, the first one we have is Pyromania. You are forced to take this passive if you don't take Flamethrowers, so yep, we're going to have to take it no matter what. It is nice though, because if you are below 50% health, you do get a damage bonus. And then the last one I have is Combat Speed. When you activate a Fire Staff ability, gain 10% haste for 5 seconds. This haste buff actually sticks to you if you swap weapons too. Really nice stuff. And a nice passive to have in general. Now, if I finished filling out my Fireball passives here as well as Flame Out, the last few ones that I would grab are Watch It Burn for the burning on our light attacks. Really nice because the burning can actually stack and it can deal quite a lot of damage over time if you keep light attacking something. Kindle for the 20% additional burning. We've got a lot of burning on this build. And then finally Singe for the additional stack of burning when you land a critical hit for our critically focused build. I wouldn't actually take the Reheat passive here simply because we don't need it sustain-wise, so it's not that big a deal, and we don't have enough points in this tree over here to get the Runes of Helios anyway. And there you go, guys. That is the build. All right, let's get right into that PvP commentary. Of course, I have a few fights to share with you guys for the build video. So starting off with the first fight here, you can see there are a couple of purple players just doing some mining, it looks like, over there, and I just start lobbing fireballs at them to start. The Fire Staff on this build does quite a lot of damage. You can see I hit the guy with a few fireballs into the burnout, and he took a ton of damage from that combo, just getting his health chunked away, and he ends up backing up. The other player just jumping on top of me with the spear, just doing a little bit of a kite, throwing the fireballs at him, the cancel off the fireball there, and now I try to go for my own counter spear stuns. Go for my leap there too. This player, very low hit points. Unfortunately, I missed the first leap, but we connect with the Fire Staff Heavy and finish him off. And right off the bat, I think we just kind of caught these guys off guard with the amount of damage this build does. I don't think they expected me to hit them so hard. And there's a great sweep on the enemy healer there into the heavy attack, followed by the skewer. And then right away, I just switch to the Fire Staff, knowing he's going to try to kite away. And I throw a few fireballs into him and the fireball on the ground. Now, unfortunately, I become encumbered when I pick up the loot. Never a good thing. The encumbered bug hits, though, which is really nice because it gives me the ability to actually get away and decon the items so I can fight these guys now that they've come back. And I just start by Fire Staff Gap Close into the middle of them and then go right on top of one of the players with my spear, hit him with the stun, and then just kind of back up to the trees. I get good damage into that first player there with the fireball. Try to hit him with the spear stun just as he gets the heal from the enemy life staff player there, and that guy's health shoots back up. I'm taking a bit of range damage here, so I just come back towards the trees to kite out the range damage and drink the regen pot. I haven't used my actual potion yet. I kind of want to save it for when I really need it, and there it is. just taking advantage of the regen as much as I can, and then I lead with the vault kick, actually get a good stun on that guy, poke him with the light attack, and then I just roll out right away. One thing that makes the Fire Staff Spear an actually like pretty good combo for this kind of fighting is that you can constantly be pestering your opponent in melee distance with the spear, have more range than them, and then when you roll back, swap right into the Fire Staff and just feed them fireballs. And it kind of puts your opponent in a position where they don't have a good kind of ability to approach you no matter what they do. And I really like it because we can just kite around the outside of the fight here, and if the enemy player with the spear comes on top of me, we actually can hit him with a really nice combo. There you see, I go for the burnout just to get on top of the enemy healer as his health is dropping lower there. Go for the spear stun just to get the counter stun on that player so I can lob that heavy attack at the healer to finish him off before his heals are off cooldown. And now it's just me and the last player left here. And we go for the exchange on the sweeps. I actually had the sweep first there, but you have grit when you use sweep. So he had grit when I hit him with my sweep, and then my sweep was done, and his came in to actually stun me. That's okay though, we get him with a nice burnout combo there. Burnout, fantastic to hit an opponent who's trying to get away from you. They can dodge it with the roll, but it is pretty tricky because it's a pretty fast move. We managed to win that fight. Now moving on to the next clip, we got another 2v1 against a couple purple players here. I open by just kiting down the hill a bit and then right away jump on top of the first player with some spear stuns and kite back away when these guys go for pressure on top of me, switch back into the Fire Staff and just start lobbing fireballs at them. The Fire Staff's such a great tool for this build. There you see this player, he ends up not committing to the melee aggression, and I just switch right back to the Fire Staff. And this guy is taking a lot of damage from me because he does not know how to approach. He knows we have the deadly spear stuns, so it's making him very hesitant when he gets in melee range, and backing up is definitely not a good call because it allows us to just lob more and more fireballs at him. Really unfortunate, got hit by the snare there, a big backstab from the rapier, and I actually take a lot of damage from that combo. Go for the Fire Staff gap close on burnout just to break a little bit of distance, and then right away back to just lobbing fireballs at these guys and kiting out the melee attacker. He is trying so hard to get on top of me here, and all I really have to do is just keep moving around, rolling in different directions. He goes for the riposte there, but I'm pretty sure riposte does not work against a staff attack, so that's okay. We can just keep shooting fireballs at him, and he didn't go for the stun, which is what we don't want to get hit by. And then right away, I get a great vault kick on him into the sweep. Good damage on that player. Go for the heavy attack just for the extra tracking in case he decides to back up there. Catch myself a little lower on stam, unfortunately. I went for one too many dodge rolls there, and then go for the burnout. I do land it on the player that's lower health, and then hit him with a couple heavy attacks there, just lobbing the fireball too. Didn't hit with the fireball, but again, just kind of forcing him to roll and move. And I managed to bring that player down, and now it's just me and the enemy healer left, and I'm just staying very aggressive, trying to get within melee distance. I get a good stun on him into the heavy attack, into the skewer, take a nice big chunk out of his health, and then a big Fire Staff heavy attack to finish him off into the fireball too, just for good measure. And that's that. Now, moving on to the next fight, I've actually got a 1v1v1 where people actually die and they come back, but this is a really good fight, just kind of showing off what the spear can do just for zone control, as well as the Fire Staff for that medium range damage that it has. The first enemy player here, he's trying to get to some cover. He's got an archer behind him, and I'm just going to keep lobbing fireballs at this guy too, try to put some damage into him. He's got heavy armor on. I can tell this right away because he is taking very little damage from our attacks, and he's got a lot of hit points. The enemy archer then decides to start shooting at me. This is an interesting fight here because he is running spear and bow, and I think spear and bow is the more traditional spear combo that you'll see in the game right now. So spear Fire Staff versus spear bow, we actually get to see the key differences, I guess, between these two ranged off weapons. Going for some fireballs on that enemy player at close range, you can see I think the Fire Staff is way more accurate than the bow, and that's simply because the Fire Staff has such a large projectile. Yes, the speed is a little on the slow side, but it's a big fireball, and it hits anything that it can clip. So I was able to just kind of force the archer back, and he ends up having to go and heal up a little bit. I'm just kind of holding in the middle now, trying to hold off the purple player, and I find myself getting pressured by the archer, go for a kite back into the trees, and with a bit of terrain, it's going to be really, really easy for us to mitigate a lot of the range damage coming from the enemy archer. But now the heavy armor purple player has found himself becoming the target of everybody. I think this is simply because he's a lot slower. He's not going to be able to move as fast as the bow player, and he doesn't really have any speed bonuses or anything. So in the attrition fight, he doesn't have the ability to disengage that me and this other player do. So that's, I believe, why he was the first one to go down. He was just the easier target between everybody here. Now, we start engaging with the spear and bow player, just kind of exchanging stuns. I get a good dodge on his incoming stuns, another good dodge dodging his rapid strike attack there. He goes for his vault kick. I managed to get a good stun on that and land the incinerate as he tries to hit the sweep, just a little bit too far away on his spacing there. And then I go for the burnout there, get a good amount of damage into him. And this is, I think, really where the Fire Staff shines, because at this kind of medium range distance, it's a lot harder to aim the bow, and the Fire Staff can just hit these nice, easy fireballs. And this enemy archer, I think, is having a little bit of an issue fighting us open field like this. My burnout is ready again. I go for it, trying to hit him. He does manage to get the dodge on it that time, and he switches back to his bow, gets the counter stun. I feel the spear stun coming, so I instinctively go for the dodge, and there's the exchange of sweeps. Again, the late sweep is going to be the one that actually gets the stun, thanks to Grit during the animation of the sweep. And now the enemy player with the Ice Gauntlet and the Rapier in heavy armor has shown up again, and he's just shooting at the enemy archer. I'm going for the fireballs here too. I really want to finish this green player off, but he's doing a good job kiting behind the terrain. He gets a good shot there with his poison shot. That one really hurts. It deals a lot of damage with the dot, and he did manage to hit me directly with it, so I actually take a lot of damage from that one. And the green player just trying to escape there. The heavy armor purple player hitting him with the Ice Gauntlet to finish him off. And now it's just me and the purple player left to kind of duke it out again. And now I'm left 1v1 with this Rapier Ice Gauntlet heavy armor player. And I got to be a little careful how I approach. I want to make sure that I have my burnout ready or close to ready if he decides to try to lock me down in his Ice Gauntlet stuff. I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of the fight as I say goodbye. I really hope you guys like this build. It was an interesting one to play, and I learned a lot about the game kind of playing it. I'm really excited to try a whole bunch of interesting combos in the future. Thanks to the success of this guy, it makes me confident that buildcraft in this game is going to be a lot of fun. Again, if you want a written guide to this build, you can find it on pvpnewworld.com. On top of it, I got tons of New World information in general there, so be sure to check the site out. If you want to keep up to date with me, you can give me a follow on Twitter, and of course, if you want to catch me live, you can give me a follow on Twitch. I would love to do a top 5 battles for New World. If you guys have some awesome clips that you want to send in, you can send that to Kristofer@pvpnewworld.com. This show is sponsored by What the Fast, their VPN for gamers. They can give you better ping to your favorite games, free to try for the first month, a link down below for you guys. And then last but not least, a massive thank you and shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. I know I always say it, but without you, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So thank you, thank you. Thank you everybody for tuning in and watching today. As always, I hope that you guys enjoyed. Have a great night, everyone. Look forward to a new build coming up very soon, and I'll see you guys next time.